Hello, my name is Ajmal, and I will be presenting my project Muidetherapia, Healing the City. So first of all, I would next slide. The first one is about the site location to show that my site is in the middle of the village, rooting towards the future. So this is the next slide. So this is the image of my site, where it's located at the Muelestede Park. Next slide. So I will be talking about 5 key chapters of my presentation: inspiration, biophilic design strategies, and then my design, and then future planning. Next slide. So the inspiration. So first of all, next slide. I saw this painting of a swan on the window of the building of the OCMWay building. So it got me really interested with how the artisticness of these elderlies that they portray creatively at the building. So I thought it could be a way to, it's a waste to not share it with the other people, since they just they have retired. And then I thought these young kids can learn a lot from them, especially those who are interested in these kinds of talents. So next slide. Thoughts invoked is about the normal traditional system of our life phase, from education system to elderlies past and then retirement, or maybe even death. So I thought, can we make the cycle more effective towards all other people, not more, instead of a linear phase. So the next slide is about, so why elderly? So next one, I'll be talking about the loneliness, Alzheimer, death of this early experience. So it's quite a tragic for them, and they really need a company, a connection for them. And then I made an interview of Philip's Anushka to know more about the building, and then I contacted the architect to know about details of the building itself. And then I talk about LDC Center. I'll just say next slide. The LDC Center has 11 around Ghent. It's an OCMWay building. Their mission is about the social well-being of every citizen. So the mission is about to have a decent, to make a decent life for everyone. And then the next one is about so how can we help them? So I made these 6 components of health. I researched on it, about social, environmental, spiritual, and all that. So I thought, next one, a good health and well-being elevates the mental state and body. So can we create like a future living environment where we fuse these two, elderlies and health? Next slide. So I made a study about this age-friendly city to see how the demographics affects our urban life. And then I studied about the vision of the European Ghent and then our village's vision to know to have it all tallied in one line together. And then next slide. I study about the 8 dimensions of wellness. So we have 2 aspects, external and internal. So these 2, when being taken care of appropriately, we can have a better well-being for this inner and outer. And then the next one is about the Ghent climate adaptation plan. They have here there's currently a big heat wave, so there's a lot of problem with the climate change, especially when there's places with lots of urbanization. So then I'll be talking about the biophilic design. There's 3 main case studies that I would like to highlight. The first is about the Rockwood Community Center. It's a retirement center where they renovated the place to be more wellness, and they have a good study of this after effects of the building that results to a lot of improvement for the people there. And then the Alzheimer's village is about how they bring health programs into the village itself, healthy programs, speech, cooking, and artistic stuff and all that. It's a quite sustainable village with healthy programs. And then one from Singapore, Hospital Kotek Wat, is about hospital that emphasizes on community well-being, where even students go there to study because of the environment, and they also have some farmings and all that. So next slide is about I go back to the site and then search more about the existing places there. There's a cultural center, and then there's a few playgrounds, there's a social restaurants nearby. Next slide. So I'll be talking about I'll be then I sketch on the site to study the sections over there, to see the places from different sceneries, different angles, different seasons, to understand more about the genesis of the place, and to have a stronger connection of the place that I'm intervening. So the next slide will be about my design intent of creating this wellness center, and to have this 8 dimensions of wellness, and then infuse them to create a better well-being for us. So the next slide is about the main 4 biophilics principles that I would like to focus: the connections to nature, freedoms of accessibility, rich sensories of movements, of stimulations of the human senses, and then the natural materials. So these 4 principles can really elevate our nourishments of the body and soul, as studies showed in the case studies that I showed earlier. So this is really good for a startup for my design. And then next slide, I go to the site. I made a research analysis of the site, and then try to see the connections of how the building can be more integrated with the wetlands and the views of the Muelestede Park. And then I studied the public and private spaces of the building, and then I thought the private spaces can be well adjusted to make a better connection. And then about the circulation, the freedom and choice, they're quite linear, so the building is just more linear orientated for people to walk around. And then the next slide is about rich sensory movement, about the sun analysis and the wind, the cold wind and the hot wind throughout the site, where the summer breezy wind is from the left, and then the cold wind is from the right. And then I identified the hot places without any shadings at the site. And then next slide is about the program overview, just to know more about the types of programs inside the building, from petanque, bakery, library, and leisure stuffs. So the next one is about the intervention strategies. So first of all, I tried to link all the programs available there with the Ocean Way building from the cultural center, and then use the 2 existing social housing and link them with my building to make it more inclusive for the elderly to live there. And then we have this church library of Beijing's, and then Berker's food village, connect them to have a better integrated village. And then the next one is about accessibility, to make it better for the wheelchair elderly especially. And then we have this ecological path of the village to make it more pathway for the people. And then the next one is about the elderlies and barefooters and even joggers, to have a better circulation around the park itself. And then the next slide is about me trying to define a space to improve, because from the position of the landmarks that I gathered, I learned that the wetland is central in the middle of these notes of the key places that I want to highlight it. So the next slide is about my design strategies. First of all, I tried to link the shape and views, make it more orienting towards it, and then improve the accessibility with the 2 social apartments. and then have the spaces interact better with the wetlands and the Muelestede Park. And then about the infrastructure of how we can make it better. So the next slide is about the street section of making the existing car street sections to a more pedestrianized and more greeneries for the street, and limit the size of the bus transportation system, ART, railless bus, to be more to a minimal. And then the next slide is about the building strategies. I use the 4 main biflic principles and then try to incorporate them in my design, from making the views more towards them through spatial organizations, and then make the circulations more around the building. And then I make the ground floor more public and transfer the private stuffs on the upper floor, so we have a better connected on the ground. So the next one is about my form and massing. I tried to shift the masses and make it more connected with the wetlands, have a more seamless ground, and then add a new public square to react with the Muelestede Park. So the next one is about my design, Hello Muidetherapia. So this is the master plan, where you can see the ground floor have better pavements and more connected with the surroundings, and then there's a few more playgrounds available there to have the spaces for the kids who live there and have spaces for them to play. And then I improve the pavement for the football field to make it better accessible for the elderlies there. And then I introduce some public spaces. So this is the section of my building. It will look like the next slide, where you can see this long section that have these people jogging and cycling, and then you see these elderlies with wheelchairs playing basketball at the court, and then you have people doing yoga. All of these people harmoniously doing their activities on the ground along the Muelestede Park and OCM Way. And even you can see Beijing's church canopy over there to have this well interaction between each of us. And then closer up view for the ground floor, you can see this pavement with the yoga reflective spaces just beside the wetlands, and then you have this outdoor dining to introduce for people to come and eat every day, facing the Muelestede Park. So this is the cross section of the whole site, where you get to see people interacting with the wetlands, and then you have this newly proposed canopy trail around the wetland that I drew. And then you can see the cultural center, where it becomes like a cultural musical center linked with the OCMW building. So this is the next slide is about the gallery hallway. So this is a photo collage that I made to show how the place has become more flowy, and then you have these galleries of natural images to improve the senses of the people over there, the elderlies and all that. As our study shows that natural views improves and stimulates the mind more. So the next slide is about combating the climate change. So I have this combat about the heat change, where I use trees to improve the temperature of the site to shade against the wind and then the hot sun. So you can see this. The next slide is about, you can see this section where I have this courtyard inside, and then I have this shade on the left side with extra shading devices, and then the wetlands are already identified as it is, so it improves the temperature and then the shadings throughout the site. So this is a diagram of my whole idea of the building, where it starts with the solitude of the building, and then you add some public spaces. The places become more permeable with the ground floor opened, and then with the wetlands entering into the building, you get to see this connection, and then even a trail path around to maximize the experience, not just from the eyes but also through the movements of our daily lives. And then you have this public new terraces in front of at the north, and then greenhouse farming introduced, the one that is connected to burgers. And then maybe in the future scenario, the facade can be changed to a natural timber look to have a more better experience for the eyes. And then the next, and also a barefoot program that is possible for the people. So this is the longitudinal section perspective, where you can see the program of the cooking and all that. And then the next slide is about the speech plaza. You get to see this people having barbecue outdoor and all that. So this is the Exono program, where you get to see all the overview of the building. And then the next slide is about you get to see a trail path. So I'll be talking about the future planning at the next slide. So my idea about the building is after a while, we have the more collaborations we have, we can actually improve the buildings of these elderlies in Ocean Way buildings. Besides them just standing alone in throughout the whole neighborhood of Ghent, we can have this collaboration with the healthcare, mental health. And there's one example in Bloemkenswijk where you have this close relation that is possibly be connected for in the future. For example, we have this dog or non-profit organization that can also be used to attract more people entering to spaces and all that. So welcome to Muidetherapia.